Okay, so yeah, so we'll just we'll get started a couple of minutes after the hour. We'll just give people time to join. Okay, so I think we can get started. Just want to make sure we're okay. So we're recording. Yeah, so we look kind of good to go. Okay, so yeah, so welcome to the office hours. Elijah's not available today, so I'm going to host today's instance. Yeah, so let's get into it. So this is the yeah, the US EMEA weekly office hours. There's also kind of like an APAC version at a different time. It
Okay,
happens.
so do you hear any background noise, Chandra? Okay, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, just have to be in the other meeting. So
Yeah, so somebody's not muted. Let's see if I can see who it is. Okay, so it looks like I can't mute people. Yeah, so we are going to do a rebranding exercise around everything so we've got a lot of, this is the convergence of AutoGen and semantic kernel, and it's now agent framework, and we're going to kind of like switch the branding on some stuff over the next while. So I'm going to talk first of all about the releases, right? So we've done 2 releases of the Python version of agent framework since last week. There's 2 main feature adds. One is an Anthropic client, and then the other one is support for a protocol AGUI. And AGUI allows you to kind of like project your agent framework agents supporting that protocol, and then you can build UIs that basically integrate with it. So you can build your UI once and integrate with lots of different agent kind of backends. Aside from that, we've done some breaking changes around APIs. So the API is still evolving, where the team is pushing very hard to get to a GA version of Agent Framework early next year. And after that point, there won't be any more breaking changes. Because Ignite is happening the week after next, we're going to do another release, probably do another release of Agent Framework today. And then for the next 2 weeks, there won't be any breaking changes. So we want to make sure that the versions of Agent Framework stay stable for anybody who's doing demos or preparing for demos at Ignite. We don't want to end up breaking anybody. And then there's lots of fixes on the Python side then as well. For .NET, there's no new functionality as yet. The AGUI support is coming soon. There's going to be some new functionalities going to land next week and then land during Ignite as well. So there's some exciting things kind of coming. There's been a few breaking changes on the .NET side as well, and then there's been an awful lot of bug fixes on the .NET side, right? So you can just kind of follow the link to see the full list of fixes. We also did a semantic kernel release. So there's been a lot of cleanup work done on the vector data connectors. Okay, then, yeah, so sorry, there's a typo there. The AGUI stuff there, that's a typo. And then, yeah, then again, on semantic kernel, there's a long list of bug fixes then. So I don't know, is there anybody on the team who wants to mention anything of note then about the releases we've done?
Yeah, if time allows, I would like to spend a couple minutes to go over the one of the breaking changes in Python agent framework.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, do you want to?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let me share. So can you all see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the breaking changes from hello, can you see my screen? Okay. So one of the breaking changes from Python was the refactoring for the requests and responses pattern in workflows. So previously, if you want to request some kind of user inputs or information from an executor inside a workflow, you have
maybe Candy.
Yeah, if you're not muted, could you, unless you have questions, of course. Okay, so previously you have to, if you want to request information from inside an executor, you need to pair it up with a request info executor. So just to request information from within the workflow, you need two executors to do that. So right now, the simplification that was done was we remove the requirement for the request info executor. And then we also added a new kind of handler type on the executor, which is called a response handler. So and a new API on the context for requesting information. So we have a migration guide here for you to follow to remove to upgrade your pattern to the new pattern. So this was introduced in this release. And so as you can see, it's a step-by-step guide, right? So previously you have to import the request info executor and then the base message type and then the response type. So now you don't have to import any of these. The only thing you need is the response handler decorator, right? And then previously, if you have a custom request type, you don't have to derive it from the request info message anymore. You can just have whatever you want, right? You could have a data class or your custom class or even a primitive type, like a string or an integer. So it's much more flexible. And the way you do it previously, if you want to request information, right? So you have an approval executor that's, may need approval in the middle of its execution. And if that executor wants information, you need to pair it up with a request info executor. The way you do it is you add kind of a bidirectional edge, right? From approval executor to the request info executor and then in the back. Right now, you don't have to do that, right? And the way you, inside the executor, the update is, so you have a handler that requests information, right? So the way previous way to do it was you create a request message and then you send a message. And the request info executor will receive this message and then send out the request to the external, back to the caller. So right now, instead of doing that, you create the request the same way, but then you call request info, right, with the request payload and the type of, the data type of the response you're expecting, right? So for the approval, it would be a Boolean. Right. So handling the request, previously you would create a handler that's listening to the request response message. This message type is a generic, has 2 generic parameters, which was kind of confusing, right? But right now, what you do is you create a new handler, right? It's called the response handler, and you will get the original request back to you so that you can do any request response correlation and the response data. So the benefits of new pattern, it's much cleaner, and it has type safety and better performance because there's one less loop to get the request out and get the responses back. So this is the one of the major changes in Python in the most recent release. So so that's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Tao. Jacob, do you want to go?
Yeah, just to add, we have not ported this to .NET yet. We're still working on designing precisely how it will land, but we do intend to support this in .NET as well.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Jacob. Okay, so I think then we can open up the floor for questions now. So so Raj, I see your hands up. Do you want to come off mute and ask your question? Okay, so Raj, I can't hear you if you're trying to talk. Okay. Is it just me who's having problems with Raj, or can anyone hear
I
him?
cannot hear as well.
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
Same here.
Yeah, so Raj, you may need to drop and rejoin, and then we can come back to you. Okay, so so Rasmus, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, it's also been asked in the chat, but in the source code there's a Copilot agent, Copilot Studio agent, but there's no samples, there's no documentation on it, like it's being missed from all the lists and so on. Is that because it's not finished, or what is it actually used for, other than working with Copilot Studio, I guess?
Okay. Yeah, so Wesley, do you want to come off mute and just talk to kind of where we are? There is a sample on the Python side, but yeah, we are missing it on the .NET side.
Yeah, so I think like the plan was that we were going to do some more work on it, but I don't know how far that got. I don't know if you remember, Mark.
Yeah.
I don't know how far that got. I think we need to probably resurrect that.
Yeah.
Do we have a Copilot in semantic kernel agents? It's more like a question, because in theory, I'm just making that question because if anyone is blocked on this perspective, they can just use the converter that we have there that can make a semantic kernel agent as an AI agent in the agent framework. So
as far as I know, there's nothing in semantic kernel about a Copilot Studio agent.
Okay.
I'm not blocked by it. I'm more curious about it because I'm more or less work with all the other agents, but I wanted to understand that one as well.
Yeah. So I think it's probably just a case of it hasn't kind of bubbled up in priority. Like, you know, we've the team is very kind of heads down focused on a bunch of deliverables for Ignite. But yeah, I think we can kind of get back to this maybe after Ignite, and we'll just kind of get it into the backlog then. So
yeah, no worries, no worries. Thank you.
okay. So yeah, so Raj, do you want to try again?
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I was just looking at the example that you were showing in the Python. Is it possible to have that response format and then feed it to an agent? So a combination of an agent and an executor, and then the response from the executor is a JSON, and then feed it into an agent with the node and edge. Is there an example with that kind of flow?
Okay. So so Tao, is there an example for something like that? So
could you so you want that agent response, which is a structure output, to be the request, and then you want the response back to the agent? Is that what you?
Yeah. So most of the examples are with agent and agent and agent, or all executors. But what I want is I want an agent, and then the message output comes, and I want to feed it to an executor. I think that kind of works. But now from an executor, when you get that output, I want to feed that back to another agent. So it could be a combination of one agent, one executor, and then another edge would be another agent, and then a couple of executors. So to mix and match those with using the response output from one to the other.
Yes, so that's totally possible, right? So that's actually a good thing, a good point. So the way you would do it is you have your custom executor that has an agent inside, right? Yeah. And then you can send out a request, right? And then the response comes back, which is handled by that same executor, right? Mm-hmm. And then that handler, that response handler, can send a message. You process that response, right? And then you can send the results of that processing to the next executor. And it doesn't matter if that executor is an agent or just a normal executor, right? But of course, you have to match the message type, right? Because everything is type-based.
Yeah, is it possible to have one example? Because I had to kind of struggle to make when I had a mix and match of agent and executor, the flow wasn't that smooth.
Yeah, I can definitely create a sample that's like that. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let me mark it down, and then I'll create a sample for that.
Thanks. So I just also linked to a sample that we have in .NET that is specifically about mixing workflows with agents and executors.
Oh, is there an example, Ben, in .NET?
Yeah, it's example 7. It's called 7 mixed workflow agents and executors.
Okay.
Yeah, take a look at it. If this doesn't show what you're looking for, let us know. Add to it.
Okay. So it's under the .NET samples.
Yeah, that's right. I just linked.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Raj. So Steve.
Yeah, hi. The Microsoft semantic kernel chat completion chat history object is obviously, or the sunset, obviously. Is there a replacement for that? I see obviously agent threads are being used and seem to be heavily relied on, but I'm not sure we can directly modify the agent threads outside of the actual agent itself. So
the replacement for chat history is essentially just list of chat message. There's no more, that we don't have a specific class for the collection of chat messages anymore. I wouldn't consider a thread to be equivalent to chat history. A thread can contain a lot of context around the current conversation that isn't just the chat history. It also may not contain chat history at all, but rather a reference to a remote thread ID. For example, if you're using a Foundry agent, all that it would have is an ID that is the Foundry thread ID, and it won't have chat history inside of it at all. It is, however, possible if you're using for example, chat completion as your service, which doesn't have server-side thread storage or chat history storage, I should say. It is possible to get access to the list of chat messages that are in the thread. Actually, what language are you using?
So we're in .NET, and
okay.
The nice thing about the chat history was you like you had said, it provides the extra context with the tool call. With the tool call information, and that could then.
I think you've been muted, Steve.
Right, Steve. I think I may have accidentally muted you.
Oh, all right. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one thing I was saying about the chat history object that was nice is, like you said, it does contain the extra context. So tool calls, the retrieval of that data, that can be serialized and all stored in our database and then retrieved when someone opens old chats and has all that context. Is that same amount of data and context available in the agent threads, particularly with the OpenAI's implementation of the responses API?
It depends on which. It depends really with responses, because the responses can operate in two modes. The default mode is where it stores the response or the responses, and therefore the thread itself in the responses service itself, in which case it is not duplicated in the local thread. It is possible to switch to store equals false, which is just it's a setting on the responses service. And there's a way of doing that, when you set up an agent, in which case the chat history will be stored inside of the agent thread, and it is possible to get access to that chat history via, I actually have an example of it here somewhere. I'm just trying to see if I can find it, via the thread.getService method. Let me just quickly root around, and I'll find the sample for you. It's also but yeah, it's really important to realize that depending on what kind of underlying service you're using, if that service requires in-service chat history storage, then it will not be stored in the agent thread. If the service does not support that, or it's switched off, like in responses with store equals false, it will be stored in the agent thread. So it really depends on your context. So and it's quite simple, chat completion doesn't have server-side storage, so it's stored in the agent thread. Responses with store equals false stores locally. Responses with store equals true stores in the service. Foundry agent stores in the service. Yeah, those are the basic ones anyway. Does that make sense?
Okay. It does. It does. Thank you for that.
I'll find the sample that I'm looking for, and paste it on the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. So Ram, do you want to come off mute?
Hey, good morning, good day, team. I just posted the question mark, so if you get a chance. So what happens is, I know you folks are working with on the Ignite other stuff, but for the customer conversation, customer engagement, right? It will be useful to have kind of a demo set or presentation articulating all this capability, where we can leverage what Microsoft is putting as a demo or assert with new agent, AI Foundry, Copilot integration, right? Just a use case multi-agent setup, how to monitor some of the capabilities. That will help us to have a meaningful conversation as we engage more with the customer on this new agent framework. So if you have any demo or cert or presentation that you're putting together, please do share with us. That will be useful to have, because I'm working on one of the pharma customer. I'm enabling, educating them, bringing up to spinning up some POC platform. They are AWS. We are in an AWS compete situation, but they will aligned with Azure now. They're happy to move towards a platform. So this kind of our demo or cert will help us to have a fast track the conversation, right? Rather than trying to build everything. That way I can get more useful customer adoption confidence. So I think I spent a couple of minutes on talking. Please let me know if you have any that help us. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of really good material being built for Ignite, and so definitely after that gets presented at Ignite, the samples will be kind of like made available and kind of like presentations. I think you should be able to get your hands on those as well. Like, and between now and Ignite, like, there's a lot of interesting announcements kind of coming out, like, so, I mean, I'll talk to, I mean, if you come along to office hours, maybe the first one after the Ignite conference, hopefully we'll have Sean and Elijah then, and they can share some information about where you can kind of get access, get your hands on all these assets. So, okay. Okay, thanks. Okay, so Francisco, do you want to come off mute?
Hi, Mark. Thanks. Nice to meet you all. I'll drop a quick diagram in the chat. I could use a little help. I'm new to Agent Framework, but I've built a ton of stuff that I'm working on for my company. And right now, the thing I'm kind of challenged by is surprisingly not the framework or the agents or anything. That's all working great. It's the deployment part of it. So right now, the biggest challenge I have is with my agent and where to host it. So we're huge Azure shop. Typically, we deploy things as app services, Azure functions. Our scale tends to not lend itself to containerization. So one instance inside of a container is kind of silly to me. So we use Azure functions a lot. We use app services. Can you tell me a little bit about what my options are for my agent if I want it to be persistent? I don't want it to be something where I have to copy a copy of my agent to every client. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. So there's there is some things that we're doing. I'm not sure how much is kind of shared publicly around kind of like, hosting agents and providing a number of different options, right? So I think these might be announcements around kind of like you'll find out more at Ignite. I mean, the obvious one maybe to consider is actually just using the Foundry agent service. Like in that case, you have access to, you can create your agent in the service, like, you've access to MCP servers, MCP tools. You've got access to kind of like a lot of different out-of-the-box tools that you get with the Foundry service, like integration with, Bing, grounding with Azure AI search. There's a big long list of tools that you get, like, and which are all very useful around kind of enterprise integration type scenarios, So that's one. I mean, have you considered using the Foundry agent service?
I have, and I'm not opposed to it, but I just wanted to see what standalone options I had.
Yeah, I mean, you can build any of your any agent you want, like using Agent Framework, and within the new Agent Framework repository, we're providing different hosting packages. So there'll be a number of out-of-the-box options that you can get. So if you want to say you want your agent to project an A2A endpoint or a responses light endpoint, or a GUI is another one. Like, you'll be able to kind of, it's very, very simple. It's kind of like maybe a couple of lines of code, and then you can take your agent and you can give it this one of these endpoints, and then you can basically deploy it whatever way you want, right? But yeah, there's things kind of coming. This thing's going to be announced the week after next at Ignite. So yeah, there's probably not much more than that I can say in the short term, right? But yeah, watch out for the announcements at Ignite is what I'd say.
Okay, we'll do. Thanks, and great work, y'all. I mean, wow, I'm really surprised by what one person can build with this stuff.
Okay, that's great. Well, that's fantastic to hear. Okay, thanks. So yeah, Ram.
Yeah, I think I just going to post something. I saw this in the React, right? In the React discussion, the way the MCP server can be exposed. I thought of sharing in a broader team because since I found it useful, so I'm sharing with the broader team here. This was useful if you folks want to take a look at it. This was discussed during the React, where API gateway may play a major role, and also some MCP registry details. It was discussed during React. Take a look at the team, and this will be MCP registry. Maybe while you're building solution, think through this option as well. Nothing, I'm not solving his problem, but I'm giving some options that was discussed. How API gateway, and then is Microsoft thinking through to manage all the easy of policy. A lot of interesting article was shared, and private enterprise registry. So the person who was talking about some MCP just want to share this. That's all. Nothing specific for the agentic framework. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Thanks, Ram. Thanks for sharing that. So yeah, I can still see a couple of hands up, but I think already been to those folks. So unless Francisco, you've another question, or?
No, not yet.
Oh, yeah.
So far,
okay.
so good.
Oh yeah, no, your hand is still up, so no, that's fine. Okay, so okay, so is there anybody else on the call? I know there's a couple of questions in the chat, right? So Martin, you're saying you're getting a 401 when trying to load the latest releases. Okay, then so that yeah, that package. Okay, yeah. So we may not. We're probably not publishing packages to the GitHub repository anymore, right? Now that we're publishing them to NuGet. So yeah, let me get the correct link for you, and I can kind of paste it into the chat. So while I'm doing that, is there anybody else who'd like to come off mute who has a question?
Yes, so I have a couple of follow-up questions. One is on declarative agent. Like last time, so it was all on Azure agent, and if there are any samples or things for non-Azure agent to create them using the YAML. Somebody said that may be working on. I know it's not urgent, but if there's any progress. And the second one is on the integration of POML, the new markup language for prompt, if there is any integration as well.
Okay, so on the declarative agents, okay, yeah, thanks, Roger. On the declarative agents within Agent Framework, right? There's a pull request open at the moment. It's in my name. That has the work that's in progress, right? So we have a dependency on a package that's coming from a different team within Microsoft, right? So that's what's kind of holding up merging that PR. But if you look in the PR, you'll see there's an agent samples folder, and in that there's example of examples of YAML files for Foundry agents, Azure agents, using Azure OpenAI, and also OpenAI agents, right? So you can see the different types. And basically what we do is inside the YAML, you can specify what the provider is and what the API type is. And then we can use that information to kind of like, dynamically create the right type of agent. Or alternatively, what you can do is when you can create your own chat client. And then when you create the agent factory, you give it the chat client, and that chat client will be used to actually create the agent. So whatever type of chat client you pass in, that's the type of agent that will get created, right? So there's examples for all of those scenarios in the pull request, and I'm hoping to kind of like, to get this code merged in early next week. So yeah, and if we do office hours next week, I can do a demo and just show you some of the scenarios working.
That would be great, Mark. Okay. And the other one was on the POML.
Okay, yeah. We're not doing anything actively there. I think somebody mentioned that before as something we could potentially look at supporting, right? So yeah, we're just focusing on our own kind of like declarative syntax.
I can just add
go
to
ahead,
it.
Ben.
So Evan from our team is actually working with that team to see if we can get POML added to the labs projects that we have. So we should know more in the next few weeks. But
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that, Ben. I wasn't aware.
Yeah, I have a very basic question. Now everything is agent and all instructions. So whatever has happened to prompts and the prompt templates, and what, when do you use them? Is it everything is kind of an agent where you goal oriented, or what if I have a very specific prompt I want the client to execute and be part of the workflow?
Yeah, could you maybe go into your scenario a little bit more?
Yeah. Yeah. So like, for example, when we were in the semantic kernel, right? So we would create a transient kernel, and then I'd use the prompt template YAML to create my prompt. And then I would inject the prompt and then call the client to get an output, right? That's a very simple use case, and maybe the prompt template, I had all the examples and everything, so I used the YAML, and then I would inject the prompt template and then do that in the semantic. Now, I want to do something very simple as part of this agentic workflow without creating an agent.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, if you have a workflow, yeah, I guess the core of semantic kernel when we started it was doing kind of inference, and it was all around kind of like prompt engineering, and kind of like, so we put a lot of effort into coming up with a prompt format, a declarative format to go along with that, and then support for lots of different kind of like rendering engines, like, so our own one, and handlebars and lots of other things, right? So agent framework is kind of slightly different in that it's very much focused on building agents, right? Building agentic applications, right? So for something like a simple inference call, you can still use semantic kernel and use all the semantic kernel functionality for that. And if you're integrating it into a workflow, you could build just an executor, and its job is just to kind of like, to make that inference call with your templates, like, and you should be good to go.
So there is no room for straight inference call with prompt, or is the prompt engineering and the prompt, everything just disappears when you start using agent, or
where in the agent, if you're using an agent, where would you integrate the prompt?
So like we did in semantic kernel, right? It could be a very simple case of I instantiate the client, and here is a prompt, and then I want to make an inference call, take that output, and then feed it to another executor or another agent. And this is not necessarily an agent, but just an inference to get a direct call to get something. But now we don't have the same, we don't have that. Everything is instructions. There are no prompts, as if the prompt and prompt engineering completely disappeared if you start using an agentic framework.
But I mean, would you want to use the prompt to render the instructions, or would you want to use the prompt to render the input into the agent? And if so, what do you pass to the agent?
Yeah, I mean, so do I have to use an agent, or can I just, I think what Mark said may be the thing, that maybe an executor where I could just use that simple inference and then feed it to an agent, right? It's probably something, because it's this transformation from what we did with semantic kernel, and now everything is an agent, and everything that we did with semantic kernel and prompts and prompt templates just vanished. So
yeah, but the core of semantic kernel, like the inference support, and also kind of like, you know, things like Microsoft Extensions AI, right? Like, so
yeah.
That stuff is all still relevant, right? Like, you know, and, you know, agent framework, Microsoft Agent Framework builds on top of Microsoft Extensions AI. So if you need to, if for your use case, an agent isn't really the appropriate thing, and you just need to do inference, you can just drop out of the agent framework into Microsoft Extensions AI or semantic kernel and do your inference, right? You can combine those things together, like, you know. So yeah, everything doesn't necessarily need to be an agent, right? There may be use cases where you just need a prompt, you know.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, so Ram, I see your hand up.
Yeah, a quick question. I know we are creating agent, we are using tools, contacts, right? I'm looking for, one of the customer was asking, it's like a workflow, right? We all agree that it's a workflow automation, mostly effectively used. One of the asks from the customer is, what they're still looking for agents that can intelligently reason, react, right? Create its own workflow, create its own decision, other based on the context or based on the results, based on the findings, automatically creating additional workflow, orchestrating in an intelligent way of building multi-agent, rather than we are building agent for each of it and then trying to connect the agent, work together, rather than agent looking for an agent that can reason out itself, create a multiple workflow, orchestrate it, demonstrate. Do you have something? I've not tested it, or do you have something like that? The reason is customer has a business policy rules, right? They know the business policy rules to pass on to the, say, agent A. Here are all my policies, and then things. The agent should look for during the process, business process, it finds something that meets the policy or rules. It automatically creates multiple workflow or agent. That is something like that the customer was asking about. Is there any example of it I've seen, instead of we creating individual agent connecting the agent, do we have that kind of intelligent built? Otherwise, we lose the main purpose of how the agent should be looked into. This is from the customer perspective. So hopefully I explained the scenario. Do we have some kind of that kind of a demonstratable? It's not real-time use case, at least a demonstratable that I can show across beyond creating agent individually, connecting or trying to work together. Hopefully you got my ask. Customer is
yeah. So I think I get it. So you want the agent. Well, you know, one option is that the agent can dynamically create a workflow to solve a particular problem. There is I'll tell you one thing that I know that we can do right now, right? And then I'll see is there anyone else on the team who knows about other options, right? So at the moment you can create an agent, and you can give the agent tools that it can use to basically respond to a particular query. And those tools can be agents, and those agents can be workflows, right? So you could have a scenario where you build out the workflows. If you know you've got a predefined set of workflows, you could build them out, expose them as agents, or even just expose them as tools, and then allow another agent to actually select from between them, right? So when your query comes in, it picks the right tool, the right workflow to handle it, right? But that's probably a more static case than what you're looking for. For the dynamic case, I'm not aware of if we have any samples or if we've done any exploration on this. Ben, have you heard about anything about this before?
So is a question about like dynamically creating a workflow itself with edges and nodes and all that kind of stuff? Yeah, so we've done some thinking on this, but we haven't actually started anything on it. I mean, the orchestrations that we have are sort of agent-led workflows, right? Like things like group chat, like Magentic and handoff. Like there's some structure to sort of constrain what can happen, but the agents are, sort of get to control how things progress there. So I think that's probably the closest thing that we have to that currently.
Okay, thank you. Because customer was asking, as they trying to look at how it can help them, they were looking at all the agent time and demonstrating, hey, you're trying to create a code workflow kind of thing, but it should be more intelligent, right? That's what the agent's supposed to be, because we have contact. I mean, yeah, if you have some come across something that you're putting together, that will be a good one to showcase us, then we can leverage that, how customer can, because they're building all the small things, right? They're building a Foundry, Copilot, new agentic framework. Now they having that same story to build an intelligent agent where it can create its own workflow based on the past agent, current agent, I mean the automation, anything that will help anyway to create inertia, right? End of the day, customer is looking us as a leader in this space. So they're looking for this kind of when the question comes, we want to be able to say that, yes, we thought through, here are the things that we are looking at. Some kind of a messaging will be good to have.
Sure. Yeah. And we're also doing some kind of exploration into spec-driven development. And so, given the specification for kind of a job to be done, you can use that spec to dynamically generate a workflow and dynamically generate agents, so again, that's something that is at a fairly early stage. There's going to be a lab at Ignite that starts talking about this concept a little bit and kind of like showing some examples. You can kind of like get some hands-on experience at that. But it's an area that we've got work to do and kind of more exploration to do before we can kind of like have something that you can just kind of take out of the box, so. Yeah. Okay, so we've got
sorry, one more
Martin,
question.
go ahead.
Sorry.
Thanks. So I was wondering if there is a feasible way to avoid chat completion API in favor of responses API, or if it doesn't make any sense at all.
Okay, can you maybe explain a little bit more about? I mean, you just use the responses API. Like, what's the issue that you're running into?
Oh, there's no issue. I'm just wondering if there's some high-level functions in Agent Framework which enforce chat completion API, where I would prefer to stick with the newer responses API.
Yeah. So you can control that when you're creating your agents, right? So we support creating agents using a chat completion service or responses, the responses API. You decide that. We even support the assistance API because, you know, and we'll continue to support that until it's removed, kind of like late next year. But I mean, if you look at our examples, you can see that based on the type of, say, chat client that you create, if it's a responses API based chat client, then that's what your agents will use, right? So yeah, you've got full control over that.
Okay, thanks.
And to call out, there's no difference from our perspective. I mean, the main thing that you gain from using responses that you don't have with chat completion is with responses, you can choose whether you want to use server-side chat history storage or whether you don't want to use server-side chat history storage. And you also get built-in tools with responses that you don't get with chat completion. So responses has like a built-in hosted MCP tool, so you can basically pass a tool to the service that says what your MCP server is and give its information, and it will make service calls to the MCP tools if they match. Something like that isn't possible with chat completion. So anything that works in chat completion should really work with responses as well, plus more.
Great, thanks.
Okay, thanks. And Ram?
Sorry, Mark, I know I put it down. I couldn't access the recording of previous recording chat history. I'm not sure. I got forward this team invite, or should be part of into some group that will help me to enable access to the old recording or the chat history, because that way it will be useful for me to go and check if I missed anything.
Yeah, so we record all of these meetings, and we had been posting them so that they we had a channel like where we were kind of like posting them so people could basically view them on YouTube, like, you know. So something's gone wrong in that process. Let me I'll chase up and see if I can kind of get access to so I can post all the missing meetings, you know. So I'll follow up on that in the next couple of days and see if I can kind of get it resolved, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm behind on the chat. So if there's anybody wants to come off mute and ask their question if it hasn't been addressed.
A quick question on the dev UI for .NET. Is there anything in the works? I know that they said they may be working on. I saw some kind of a workflow visualizer, but is there any similar to dev UI for Python?
Yeah, there is an active PR for it right now, so it's being worked on. I think we're getting close.
Yeah.
Even better, you can try the PR, give us feedback. We're sort of really excited to get like more feedback, more testing. I think I'll try to put the PR in the chat now so you can sort of check it out and tell us what you think.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so yep, anyone else got a question? Okay, so
yeah, just one last thing. On the,
sure.
you know, in the semantic kernel, we had some capabilities for chat reducer, and you know, so when we have, if you have context to kind of, you know, condense that, or is there anything similar in the agentic framework for context and the thread?
Sorry, what was the question? I was reading a message in the chat.
Yeah, in the, you know, like in the semantic kernel, you know, we had the capability, the chat reducer, to kind of truncate the context and the history. So in the new thread model with the agent, is there anything similar to that?
Yes, there is. It really will depend on what kind of service you're using. As I was mentioning earlier, if you're using a underlying service that stores messages server side, it's up to that service to manage the chat history and truncate or summarize or whatever. For example, if you're using a Foundry agent, it has server side chat history storage, and it has to manage that for you. But if you're using chat completion and therefore you have local chat history storage, the default is in memory. You know, when you create a chat client agent, it just defaults to having this in-memory message store. You can optionally attach a chat history, or sorry, chat message reducer to that, and I do have a sample. I think, in fact, it's the same sample I shared earlier to show how to get access to the list of chat messages. So I'll just share that again.
Okay. So if you do things like mem0 or something, we could use that, and then so the code to actually do the reducer in terms of extracting what you need, is that something that you have to write, or are there any best practices or something pre-built to say, hey, extract this, remove all the redundancies and things like that?
So there are some built-in chat history reducers so we're using an abstraction that's coming from Microsoft.extensions.ai. Let me just find this, and I can share my screen quickly and show how this behaves. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
So so here we creating a agent that's based on chat completion. Therefore, it's using local chat history storage, and in this case, I'm creating I'm setting the chat message store factory to create an in-memory chat message store.
Okay.
And this is the default, by the way, but by default, it's not created with any reducers, any truncation or anything like that. You know, you can optionally set this factory and then set your own reducer. It takes the iChat reducer parameter as input, which is part of Microsoft Extensions AI abstractions. You can implement your own chat reducer, of course. It's just a simple reduce async that takes in messages and produces messages. But there are two implementations in Microsoft Extensions AI. At the moment, there's a message counting chat reducer, and I forget the other one. I think the other one might be a summarizing one. So there are two, but you can obviously implement your own as well. And once you've attached this, when you get a new thread, it'll automatically, like every time we call get new thread, you know, from a it'll invoke this factory and produce and attach a new message store to each of the threads, and attach whatever reducer you have there.
Okay, so you all you have to do is pick which one, whether you want the number of messages or the summarizer, and then it'll do that if you just use the out of the box. So these are the basic ones, either the last 5 messages or take all the messages and summarize it in the memory.
Yeah, I haven't looked into the summarizing one in detail, so I believe there's a summarizing one anyway. But if I've only briefly looked at what options are available, and I was mostly focusing on this one. So don't quote me that there's a summarizing one and how it works. But I know there's 2. I do remember, and I was mostly looking at this one. But yeah, definitely creating a summarizing one isn't super complex anyway.
Yeah. But whenever you do that, is it making a LLM call to do that summary?
Like I say, I haven't looked at it. Let me see if I can find it and I can just share.
I can quickly jump in.
Thanks.
You do an iChat client and then you use an LLM to do the summarization. And it works fine, perfectly. I'll link a video about it if you wish to see it, Raj. But it works fine and out of the box.
Thanks, Rasmus. That's great.
Yeah, thanks for that. Okay, so we're just at time. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and yeah, we'll try and get the recordings posted. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.